Hi everyone, I just wanted to give an update on this new form of adoption that Ryan and I are going to be pursuing. It's kind of a newer form of adoption and it's not very well known, so I'm going to need to backtrack just a little bit. When Ryan and I started pursuing in vitro, we went about the process very conservatively, because we didn't want to end up with a large amount of embryos that we didn't know what to do with. But we totally understand and sympathize and empathize with couples who just really give it their all when they're trying in vitro. And what I mean by that is fertilizing all of the eggs, seeing how many embryos you have to work with, and moving forward from there. It's expensive, and if you can only afford to do it once, you really want to give yourself a good shot. But as a result of so many couples going through in vitro fully, don't know how else to say it, but there is a surplus of embryos oftentimes, where they have maybe 12 embryos that they have to work with, and they get pregnant the first time, and then maybe you use those embryos for future siblings in years that follow. But they still have, let's say, 5, 6, 7 embryos remaining that they don't actually intend on trying to get pregnant with. So all of those embryos stay frozen in storage, and they're just kind of frozen in time. So there's something called Embryo Adoption. It's also called a Snowflake Adoption, or the Snowflake Program, where you can adopt a set of embryos that a family is no longer using. They can donate them to you, and you can do an in vitro transfer with someone else's embryos and get pregnant with your adopted child. It's very cool. It's not really a new technology or medical procedure, because for all intents and purposes surrogacy is very similar in that it's someone else's genetic material that would be put into a woman, and she would carry that child, and then the child would go back to the genetic family. So it would happen the same way, only this is considered a form of adoption, or in some cases it's called embryo donation. So I learned that there are 500,000 frozen embryos in the United States alone. And that number is only growing as infertility and infertility treatment become more commonplace. So there's a lot of potential for children, and not a whole lot of families pursuing them. And so we kind of see that along the same lines as international adoption, where you have a massive amount of kids and not nearly enough people ready to parent them. And that's kind of the opposite of domestic infant adoption, which is the program that we're in now, where in our agency I think there are 9 or 10 couples just like us waiting for babies, and there are not any infants or birth moms in the agency right now. As we know from last week with the twin situation that came up, that can change like almost instantly, but to have waiting families and not enough babies is like the opposite problem than the embryo and international adoption. So we see this as really an honorable pursuit, I think, just to be able to provide not only a home and parents for these tiny babies, but these babies need a shot at life in a womb, and Because I'm diagnosed with unexplained infertility, there is no apparent reason that I could not carry a baby. And because of the way that we went about infertility treatment and IVF, my doctor believes that I miscarried because of the quality of the embryos, because of the way that we went about pursuing IVF. So a perfectly healthy, quality embryo should have no problem implanting into my uterus because there's nothing wrong with me. So that's kind of, that's kind of the rundown on what it is. For Ryan and I, it took a little bit of time to get to the point where we became excited about this form of adoption. It's always seemed like a really awesome thing to me, and we knew about it from the time that we even switched over to adoption. But coming off of, a year of trying to get pregnant on our own, and then a year in treatment, and then ending all of that with the miscarriage, I was really just over treatment, and embryo adoption just really didn't seem like something I wanted to do. I needed a break from medication and doctors and that whole world. And we have no regrets. We're really happy that we pursued domestic infant adoption. And I was able to actually, since we switched over, I was able to really just grieve that. I really thought that once we switched over to adoption that I would not really pursue getting pregnant again, and so I really was able to just grieve the loss of that, and really we embraced it. There are some perks in being able to have kids and not be pregnant, and Ryan and I ended up really liking that once we just embraced adoption as the plan for our family. So it did take a bit of time and a few months. We've been thinking about this for the last few months, just whether or not this is something that we wanted to get back into, getting back into treatment, trying to get pregnant again. But I think as far as an adoption standpoint, we still consider this adoption because there are still children out there that need families, and that this allows us to do both, to be able to provide that for a baby and pursue adoption because we love adoption, and at the same time be able to enjoy pregnancy. And I think I can actually say that now, that I'm looking forward to pregnancy again if the Lord would have that for me. So yeah, I'm trying to think what else I need to share with you. We're not sure on when we can actually move forward with this quite yet. It depends on a couple factors. Definitely within the next couple months, but I have a consultation with Dr. Q, my fertility specialist, my RE, tomorrow. So I'll be meeting with him tomorrow and asking him several questions and figuring all of that out, and then we will move forward. Our agency actually handles three forms of adoption, which would be embryo adoption, domestic infant adoption, and international. So thankfully, there's no problem switching from domestic and infant adoption. The requirements are essentially the same. So all we would need it would really just take a phone call and me letting her know that we were ready to switch over. And that would be it. And we can give it a shot for a few months and, try to transfer however many embryos in the next few months. And if it doesn't work after, several tries, then we can decide, okay, I guess this wasn't for us, and we can switch right back to domestic infant adoption. We can't do both at the same time. We have to fully commit to one or the other, but it is fairly easy to switch back and forth between the two. So that's really nice, and it's really neat that we're just able to stay within the agency because we've really grown to like the people there and really feel supported and cared for at our agency. So the fact that it's all going to be within the same place and people is really cool. And the fact that we're going to be able to work with those people as well as Dr. Q and his office staff, who we really loved as well. So anyway, that's where we're at. I know that there are several questions that I typically get because I have talked to a few people about this. So I think I'm going to do a separate post for frequently asked questions, but I just wanted to kind of introduce the idea to you guys and let you know that I'll be having my consultation tomorrow. So hopefully I'll be able to start posting more and let you know as things start moving forward where we're at. So anyway, that's it. Bye.